Noches, sí. Tú haces de pelota tonta y yo de lista.
Venga, me parece bien. ¿No me la señal? Ahora sí. Ahora hay una luz.
¿Verdad? Somos payasos.
Hola, buenas tardes. ¿Se me escucha?
So,
Perfecto,
good
entendido.
afternoon. Can you
Se oye,
hear
se
me?
oye.
Yes. Can you hear me?
No, por favor. Hablemos en serbio.
So-
¿En serbio sabes?
Let's speak in Serbian. That means let's be serious in Spanish. It's a little joke.
Hay un juego de palabras, pero
That's a pun.
Buenos días.
Untranslatable.
Ahora
So,
sí.
Good morning.
Bueno, bienvenidas
There
y bienvenidos a
Welcome
esta segunda
to
mesa
this
de debate.
second roundtable.
Hoy tenemos
Today,
tres personas
we have
invitadas
three
más
people
para poder
with us
charlar
in order to
sobre el
speak
circo social
about
y
social
sobre todo
circus and above all,
más centrado en la dimensión
focus
terapéutica
in the therapeutic
y social de la figura del
dimension and
clown.
social dimension of the clown.
Tenemos aquí
We
a
have
tres
with
personas
us
que van
three
a introducir
people
un poco
that are
este
going
tema
to introduce a
y
bit
tenemos
this
una
topic,
pregunta
and
que
we
es la
have
pregunta
one
clave
main question,
que vamos a
key
lanzar
question that we're
en
going
esa
to
mesa.
launch in this
¿Puede el
table.
circo
Can
transformar nuestras
circus
vidas?
transform our lives?
Bueno, pues aquí entre todas vamos
So
a
here,
contar historias.
all of us are
Vamos a
going
contar
to
diferentes
tell some
historias y
stories,
ver
and
cómo el circo
we're
ha
going to see
transformado un
how
poco
circus
nuestras vidas
has
y las vidas de
transformed our
muchísimas
lives and the
más
lives of
personas.
many people.
Bueno, pues vamos a tener una
So we're going
introducción.
to,
Os explico
I'm
un
going
poco esta
to
mesa,
present you a little
cómo
bit
va. Nos
this
vamos a
round table.
presentar.
How is it going to be?
Estamos ahora
We're
en
going
esa
to
fase
introduce
de
ourselves. We're in
bienvenida.
the welcome
Luego vamos a tener una
phase.
parte central donde
Then we
vamos
will
a
have
desarrollar
a
este
central
debate.
phase where we will
Y
have time to talk.
finalmente
And
vamos a
finally,
lanzar
we will
las
launch
preguntas
some
que
questions,
queramos desde el público.
whatever questions that we may
desde las
want to
personas
ask
que
from the
están
public, the audience, and
conectadas ahora
also
mismo
from
en
those
streaming
people
y
connected
que
to the
también
streaming
están
that are
participando
also
en estas
participating in
jornadas desde
these
ayer. Así que
workshops and the
vamos a
sessions
dejar un
since
espacio
yesterday, so we're going
para
to
que
leave some space
podamos escuchar
so that
preguntas
we can all listen to the questions
y
and
contestar.
answer to the
Bueno,
questions.
ahora sí nos vamos
So,
presentándonos.
okay, let's begin introducing ourselves. We're going to begin with Julia Camacho. She's in the beginning of the table. Then in the center, we have Serti Claramunt.
Y tenemos a Merche Ochoa.
And also
aquí a mi lado.
Merche Ochoa next to me.
Y bueno, pues mi nombre es
And my name is Hilaria.
parte de
I'm
Sargantana
part of
Circo
Sargantana
Inclusivo, que es una asociación
Circo
de-
Inclusivo,
de aquí
which
de
is an
Valencia,
association from
en la que,
Valencia,
bueno, tenemos muchísimas
where we
afinidades
have
con la
many
temática de hoy.
similarities
También tenemos
to
un
the
proyecto de
topic that
circo
we're going to
inclusivo,
deal with today. We have a
social y
project of social, inclusive, and participative
comunitario, por
circus, and
supuesto.
also community
Entonces,
circus, of
trabajamos
course.
con esta herramienta
So we work with
y
this
con personas
tool and also
muy
with
diferentes.
very different
Estamos
people. So
convencidas de que el
we
circo
are
es para todo el
convinced
mundo.
that circus is for
Y
everyone.
bueno, y desde el 2014,
And since 2014,
estamos llevando una serie
we
de
are
proyectos centrados en
doing certain
en formación de
projects
circo
focused
inclusivo.
in inclusive circus
Entonces, bueno,
training.
pues, por eso estamos aquí
That's why
también,
we
somos
are
parte de
here.
esta
We're
mesa.
also part of this
Vamos a
table.
moderarla en
We're going to
este-
moderate
en
this
este
table
caso,
in this
porque
case
sí que
because
también, compartimos esa
we
inquietud
also
de-
share that
y de dar un poquito
will
más a conocer
of
ese lado
showing
terapéutico
the
que
therapeutic
tiene el circo
side of
y que
circus
tiene el clown.
and that clown
Ya
has.
hemos roto muchísimas
Since we
fronteras.
have
Sí, hemos
broken
salido de
many
los lugares
borders, many
convencionales
frontiers, we have
y hemos llegado a
come out of the
hospitales
box, we have reached
y a centros,
hospitals,
a
centers,
escuelas,
schools,
a residencias, a muchísimos lugares donde
many shelters,
nunca
many
antes
places
se
where
había visto el circo.
before they had
Entonces,
never
es
seen
un
the
poco
circus.
nuestra
So that's a bit
revolución,
our revolution, I would say.
Y bueno, pues vamos con esta
So
con esta
let's
presentación.
begin with the presentation, with the introduction. We're going to know three different stories
En el
because
circo hay mucha
in
literatura,
circus
¿no?
there is much literature
Y
and
estamos siempre con muchísimas
we're
ganas de escuchar
always
historias
willing
de
to listen
personas
to
que han
stories
estado
from people that have been traveling
nuestra nuestra pasión y
that
profesión
have
nos
been
lleva
sharing
muchísimo
our
a viajar.
profession, our passion, and that leads us to
Realidades.
travel, to discover new realities.
Por eso también estamos
That's
aquí
why
en
we
esta-
are
en este
here
contexto,
in
¿no?
this
de
context
ser
of a
y
network, of
ser cada
being a
vez
network
más
and
y cada
being
vez más
more
fuertes.
and more people and more
Os voy a presentar la primera
resilient and
invitada
more
que tenemos
stronger.
aquí.
I'm going to
Al
introduce the
principio-
first
al principio de la mesa
speaker.
tenemos a Julia.
We have Julia Camacho.
Sí, ahí está.
There she is.
Julieta.
Julieta.
Julieta, igual.
That's how we call her.
Es su nombre artístico. y
It's
es el
her
nombre,
artistic
bueno,
name also.
Bueno, pues se forma en educación social,
And she
teatro y
has
clown.
training in social education, theater, and clown. So she begins with that fusion. She's also trained in training in the social circus of the Ateneo Popular of No Barris, the district of Valencia. That's where I met her. So it's a pleasure for me to meet her again here and to see that we keep the same will, the same courage. And she began a project of circus and social transformation called Encontrando Sonrisas, whose aim is to pollute the world with smiles, I imagine. And that idea of approaching and promoting circus as a tool, and also to approach and take circus to those places where art and culture are not so popular. I'm speaking about places where, due to conflicts or social injustices, inequalities, art is a privilege that stays with other people, so to say. So that's a bit the vision, the activism she's going to tell us about. And she's there in the slack line, so to say, doing juggling with smiles. And also at artistic level, she is at the same time working with the theater company of clowns, of family group in Programat, and she is also part of the Association of Circus Professionals of Girona. So you have the floor. Thank you for being here. Okay, so thank you. It's been a pleasure to meet you again since many years here in Valencia. I'm going to ask for the first image to be projected. This is I haven't prepared a PowerPoint, but I had some couple images. I thought I was going to be the last one, but I'm going to be the first one, so let's go for it. First of all, thank you for having invited me. I'm very happy to be able to share our experience. And let's begin. After 20 minutes, please tell me, please stop me.
Vale. Gracias.
Thank you. So here's the first image. This is my not PowerPoint. It's the logo of Contaminando Sonrisas. We are an association of social circus, non-profit. We work voluntarily to fill the world with smiles and social circus. As you can see, the logo consists of two bicycle wires because wheels, sorry, our initial idea, because always projects begin with an idea and then they become a different one. Our first idea was traveling around the world with our European privilege. So traveling around the world with bicycles and bicycle machines and transform their energy in order to project videos, to show music in our shows. And we realized that traveling with a bicycle machine is quite difficult. You can imagine a bicycle with an engine that generates energy, so we had to leave that idea behind, but we kept the logo because it's very beautiful. People ask us, how come there's a bicycle there? And I always say, because in the beginning our idea was that one. I hope that we can recover that idea sometimes when we again travel with bicycle machines, but it was not very practical. So this association was born in 2013. I became part of this association in 2015. A friend wanted me to travel with him around Africa. I loved that idea, traveling around Africa with a bicycle machine. And there we began performing in the streets, in orphanages, in hospitals, and we began discovering things until that same year we did. So next image, please. Not two images. Okay, there we go. I love this picture. I'm a bit of a narcissist, but I love the picture. That's me, of course, a bit younger. So that same year, we traveled to a place that I always say it is a place we should be ashamed as a country. It's called Ceuta and Melilla. I'm not sure if you've ever been there. I do not recommend you to go there. We should feel ashamed of those cities, those two cities surrounded by walls in the north of Africa, and we wanted to discover what was there, and that's when we really discovered how important it was to do social circus, not only traveling around the world doing circus because it's cool, but reaching those places where people feel trapped by borders or by social inequalities or uncomfortable moments of life, and to break with that routine. In this case, we had a truck, and we traveled with the truck. We polluted with gas, but also with smiles. So this picture in particular is in the CETI, is the Center of Temporary Stay for Immigrants in Melilla in particular. And as you may imagine, there are many families, whole families. You can see here people coming from Syria and also people coming from Morocco. There are families, many families living in a place where there are around 300 beds and there are around 600 people living there. I have some harsh memories of that time, of reaching there, doing our show, next day coming back again and kids asking us, "Are you going to do that performance again?" And we tell them, okay, it's going to be the same, but the kid didn't mind. They were just telling us that we needed to break with the routine, that routine, because people go to Ceuta and Melilla and realize that it is a city surrounded by walls where you get trapped. So here was the moment when we decided to leave aside the idea of traveling the world and to begin working with the circus as a tool for intervention. There are some pictures here. For example, here we are in Ceuta. This is an association, a beautiful one in Ceuta, working with Saharian kids, giving them basic support. Internet connection, they teach them the language, and they do in some sort of social integration in the new system, whether we like it or not. And here we went there one day, we went there with our circus material, and we were sharing things with them. These are particular projects, but that make you awake and sympathize and get connection with those people throughout these disciplines of circus. Here you can see my colleagues back there with the violoncello. They went there in 2019, they went back to the border of Ceuta and Melilla, and they found exactly the same situation. It hadn't improved a bit, and in this case they focused more in working with young migrants that live in the streets, because one of the biggest problems that they find in Ceuta and Melilla is that many kids migrate alone and they stay either in centers or in the streets. So a bit more of the same. We wanted to break with the routine, to share things with them, and to show them that we do not all represent the European policies of Frontex. Here's a beautiful image of what sharing means, of breaking the social and political barriers that have been imposed to us, and to share with these kids things, because probably they wouldn't have gone to the theater or wouldn't have gone to see circus shows. They didn't have that priority because they didn't have the chance to discover how important it is to smile for just a bit of time, get outside of your routine, to get out of that poverty situation that the streets force you to live. So another picture. So once we chose this line of doing social circus, we realized that we needed a lot of money, of course, because plane tickets and traveling means money, and we began doing events, festivals, talks, circus workshops, in order to get money and be able to pay those trips. So next year, in 2016, it began in 2015, but in 2016, the crisis came. This migration crisis, people coming from Syria and the surrounding countries, and that year we focused in knowing Greece, which is a beautiful country that is a border with Turkey, has had the need of absorbing migration flows. And we were in Greece. This is in Eco Camp, which is a settlement of people around a gas station. And I discovered that even though you light a fire around that gas station, it's not going to burn, because many people lived there and there was no accident. And we did a bit of the same. We went there with our suitcase, with our juggling material. We break with the routine. We were in the central square and began doing our performance just like that, from scratch. One wonders if you are really changing something, are you transforming something, but you just go back home with those smiles, with that woman that hugs you, and with the lack of communication because you do not speak the same language, but you sort of understand that you shared something with that person. You helped her to spend one day more in their waiting, in that expectations of waiting for the regularization of the situation. This is the camp of Idomeni. You all have heard of this camp. It was a settlement of thousands and thousands of people in the border between Greece and Macedonia. As we can see, this is a train station. And here I realized how is it possible to turn any space into a circus. You can see the tens of people living around that place. I'm not sure if you've ever seen the pictures, images of that camp. It's a huge camp. It's something that you cannot believe when you see it for the first time, and you realize that the world is full of people living in that situation, but from your privilege of a white rich person, from your home, you're not aware of that situation. So we realized there the capability that we had of turning any space such as this one into a circus. This picture is beautiful. Also in there, in the picture, you can see that one there is me. And what can I say? Participation, and one of the main objectives as clowns is to make the audience to participate in the performance, in the show, not only with their look and their smile, but also to make them participate, to awake their bodies and let themselves go and forget that they are living in a situation of fleeing from your country.
Esta foto también es muy bonita.
This picture is also beautiful.
Como iba diciendo,
And as I said, Idomeni
una estación de tren
was a train station that simply paralyzed thanks to or due to the migrants.
Una semana después de esta
A
foto,
week after this picture, police came there
desalojó este campo
and
y metieron a
made
todo el
all the
mundo en
people
campos,
to go to different camps, to militarized camps, so to say.
bueno, los metieron en campos
They put them in institutionalized camps with their positive and negative sides, of course. Here they had more freedom of going around, but in the institutionalized camps they promised you to give you political asylum, provide you political asylum, but okay, I'm not here to talk about this. So let's continue. I'm here to speak about my experience, and one realizes that it's not that there are many people in Greece, but the world is full of peoples living in refugee camps. With all due respect to our colleague present here, the world is full of peoples wanting to flee from wars. And this picture, it was a trip that really changed my life. This is in Lebanon, 2018. I've been twice there, 2017 and 2018. This is in 2018, and there I realized that I couldn't change the world, but I could transform my own life. I could share face to face. What I can do is I can do circus. People can peel potatoes. People can build houses. My skill is to do circus. So I'm not sure if you know the situation in Lebanon. It is a very small country in the Mediterranean. I always explain it is such a small country that in order to write the name of the capital and the name of the country, they need to use parts of the sea in the map. I mean, you know, only the name of the country just covers the whole area of the country because it's very small. And it is the country of the world with the highest number of refugees per capita. It's around 2 million and a half people, besides the Palestinian people that have been for more than 70 years living there. Since 2000, since the war in Syria began, 2011, there has been a great flux of people seeking for refuge. This is in the valley of Bekaa. If you want to get more information, the Bekaa Valley is a beautiful valley that crosses the country with the border with Syria, and there you can find settlements on one side, the other side. Millions of people living in these horrible tents that you can see there, sponsored by the great NGOs. They do what they can, but okay, I'm not here to speak about this, sorry. So this picture, I also love it. As you can see here, you see women and kids bringing some carpets and some chairs to go and see a show in the square, main square of the camp. Here you can see my vocation. I love doing workshops with kids. Here are some pictures. In this occasion, I'd like to mention Urda Spain. It's an NGO. And we worked with them and they provided us some materials. This could be a different talk, how difficult it is to enter the camps, how difficult it is to make them believe in you. But when you find someone that believes in you, they take you everywhere. They make you do 3 performances per day, but in the beginning it's quite difficult to get permits in order to enter into a institutionalized camp. It's a great deal of bureaucracy to prepare such an expedition, such a trip. Requires between 3 and 6 months preparing the permits, the team, equipment, shows. This is the greatest picture, which shows the faces of the kids. As I said, in the city of Melilla, they ask you to come the next day to do that show, but here as well. And you tell them, I'm going to do the same, nothing is going to change, maybe some sort of improvisation, but they do not care because they do not have this in their life. So. And now I wanted to mention something else. I focused in certain expeditions, certain trips that we did in the Mediterranean, because this is all about that, about social circus in the Mediterranean, but we've been in some other places, and I wouldn't like to forget the Saharan people. In 2016 we participated in the international circus fest with the Saharan people, and it was a great experience to go there. And to finish my intervention, I wanted to say that the pandemic has hit really harsh the small associations. This is the last picture. The pandemic has really had a bad impact in small associations that devote their work voluntarily, their voluntary work to do shows. We do this in our professional life, but when we have spare time, we do such exhibitions, such expeditions for free, and we get funds. Oh, there's another picture. There you go. This is the one that I wanted to show you. We do some circus fest. That was 1 week ago. We did our solidary circus show in Breda. It's a small population between Barcelona and Girona, and that fest provides us with funds in order to be able to travel during the rest of the year. So these workshops, merchandising, talks, donations. We are an independent association, and positive and negative things is that we do whatever we want, but we are not able to reach all the places we would like to reach. But we do not have to depend on any subsidies or any big NGOs, but we do not have money to do all the things we would love to do. And finally, I'd like to say that we like to work with NGOs, with small associations, and we like to work with more independent people, so have self-management, so to say. So I think I've spoken too much now. I hope you have liked my talk. I would love to keep telling you things, but lastly, I'd like to mention that next week I will begin preparing an expedition, a trip to a place that we do not know very well what's happening there, but I want to talk to you about that. We want to go to the border between Bosnia, Croatia and Serbia. There is a hot spot there of people wanting to enter the European Union, but the borders prevent them from doing it. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias a ti, Julieta, de verdad.
Thank you very much, Julieta, for telling us what's happening in many places. I think it's one of the main objectives to show what's happening in these places, and we have a very powerful tool to show it, which is art. Okay, I felt a little nostalgic from my expeditions in the beginning. My beginnings with social circus, I was so radical. I wanted to see with my own eyes what's happening. I do not believe what they tell me. I want to see it with my own eyes. So breaking borders, not only going to faraway places, but also breaking borders here inside in our own city of Valencia.
con lo que decíamos al principio de llevar el
as we
circo
were
a
saying
lugares
before,
donde
to
antes
take circus to
no
places where before
se
it
había nunca
was never
Entonces,
seen.
bueno, aquí tenemos a Sergi Claramunt.
So we have also Sergi Claramunt with us. He's going to tell us a bit how he
cómo han llegado los clowns a los
so how
hospitales de
clowns
Valencia.
have reached the hospitals of
Bueno,
Valencia,
sabemos
because
que-
you know
que han llegado, ¿no?
that they
Pero
have
queremos también saber
reached
cómo han
the
llegado
hospitals, but
aquí,
we want to know
¿sí?
how
Ya
they
que
did
tenemos
it,
esa suerte
since
de
we
tenerte.
are lucky to have you with us.
Y bueno, pues Sergi ha trabajado como
So
payaso,
Sergi
como
has
actor y mimo,
worked as clown,
y bueno, pues aquí, pero también afuera,
actor,
¿no? En España,
here,
Francia,
but
Europa,
also in
África.
foreign countries such as France, Africa,
y aquí en
America,
Valencia,
and here in Valencia,
es fundador de
he
Payaso
is
Hospital,
founder of Payaso Hospital,
y siempre ha juntado
and
un poco
he's
la dirección teatral
always
con la
joined
pedagogía.
theater
Sí,
direction
entonces,
with
fundador de
pedagogy.
Payaso
He is
Hospital,
founder of
actual
Payaso
presidente de
Hospital,
Clowns por la Salud,
president director of
la
Clowns
Federación Nacional de
per la
Clowns
Salud,
Hospital.
the National Federation of Clowns for Hospitals.
Nos va
And
a contar un poco
he's going
cómo
to tell
llega
us a
aquí a
bit how
Valencia
he reached,
este proyecto
so
al
how
Hospital
his
Clínico,
project reached
posteriormente el
Valencia,
Hospital
the
Infantil de la Fe,
Hospital Clinic,
y
and
como
then
suele
the
pasar,
Hospital
después
de
de
la
mucho
Fe.
tiempo
And after a long
de
time
romper
of
fronteras y hacer
breaking
activismo, pues
barriers
hoy en
and
día
doing activism,
es una
advocacy,
realidad
nowadays
en
it's a
muchísimos hospitales
reality
de
in
la
many
Comunidad
hospitals
Valenciana,
of
de
the
Valencia,
Valencian
de
community,
Alicante, de Castellón.
Valencia, Alicante, Castellón.
Muchísimas gracias por
Thank you
estar
very
aquí.
much
Vamos a
for being
escuchar tu
here.
historia.
We're going to listen to your story.
En marcha, si no me enrollo.
Okay, I'm going to set the clock on, so otherwise I'll be speaking for 3 hours. So, first of all, I'm moved with what you have told us, Julia. It's very beautiful what you said, how harsh, but how beautiful. I wanted to thank also the Mostra for the invitation and for giving us voice, so give voice to clowns. It's always great. I get my serious voice. Marité, you have a cold, right? So how did they reach the hospital? Easy. I didn't invent anything. I'm actor, I'm a clown, I'm from here, from Valencia, and I wanted to continue my training. So I migrated to Paris to study in a theater school, in the international school Jacques Lecoq, and I got trained there. I found a job in a company, so I stayed there, and some colleagues of mine had begun working in an association of clowns that worked in hospitals. In principle, that didn't really call my attention. I coincided with them in a dinner once. They told me their experience. I began being curious about it. But then they told me that they needed clowns, that I should go to an interview, job interview, and the director invited me to see the program, and that's when I had a shock, so to say. It was a change in my life, because I followed a couple of clowns that went into a hospital, and I had the feeling, sensation, which was opposed, so contradictory. So you laugh with the jokes of the clowns, but on the other side you see the kid so bald because they are with chemotherapy, having a probe coming out of their nose, so with a leg, so I had a rise of emotion. I didn't know what to do, whether to cry, to keep looking. I swallowed, I kept looking. I had a couple of moments as that, and then the director told me, okay, now I am going to give you 1 day to think whether you want to work with us or not. So after I went to Paris with the energy and the youth, I was 25. I wanted to progress. I saw my name with lights, like I wanted to be famous, but then you realize the reality of seeing people that are living moments of their life next to you, because they are in the hospitals are within the cities, and these need those smiles more than anyone. They have that need of human contact, of hope, of emotion, that need of release, of contact, of connection. And then I thought, okay, I cannot say no. I've been preparing myself for my whole life since I began studying music until I went to Paris to study mime, music, theater, puppets. Everything that I had studied my whole life was going to be useful for those people that are the ones that need it the most, more than those people going to the theater to see you. So that's you going to see the people. So I said yes. I did a casting. They got me. I got training as hospital clown in Paris. I worked for 4 years there, and that's how I wanted to go back to my village, because they speak very strange in Paris. It's very cold there, and I wanted to go back to my small village. But I loved the job I had there, and it didn't exist here in our country. So I thought, the ignorance and impulse of youth made me to begin doing it, and I did it. I was lucky because a doctor in Valencia was working in one of the hospitals of Paris, and I had that first contact with him. I connected with people that were aware of the project, and that's how Payaso Hospital began in Valencia, in the clinical hospital, Hospital Clínico. And I've always loved to do workshops, clown workshops, and within the best students, so to say, I did my own casting in my head, my secret casting, and I said, okay, you, do you want to do that? And I began training them. We did it in France. They keep doing it in France in a professional way. That means it's an association that receives funds from different sources, and they pay their professionals. So I wanted to conform that project, and that's how we did it. Payaso Hospital, so 25 years ago it was founded. We have been working in hospitals for 24 years now. It began in 1997. In 1999, we began in the clinical hospital. It was the first hospital. And our idea of our mission has changed a bit. In the beginning, we said that we wanted to de-dramatize the hospital context, to offer relax and leisure time for families and hospitalized kids. But with time, we have realized that we are doing much more. We are contributing to the vision that hospital has, which is taking care and heal the patients. That means it's not that we are there for a bit of a time, we do some tricks and we go away. Why? Because we always do it in cooperation with the health teams. When we go there, we always go in couples. We have been trained in that sense in order to be able to work in the hospital context, which is not easy as well. In the beginning, I remember the doctors told us, okay, clowns, not again, please, imagine we have enough with our job, but now they have changed their minds. Oh, they always think, oh, good, we work with kids, it's great to have clowns. So they have changed their minds. We have transformed all this due to the relation that we have had, that has allowed us along these years to extend the programs. Our programs are periodic programs, regular programs. We've been working in the clinical hospital for more than 25 years, here in Valencia, also in the Dr. Peset hospital. Then we began working in Castellón, in Alicante, disclosing our work. These are regular programs. We go there every week, between 1 and 4 times a week, along the whole morning from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and we have contact with the health professionals. They tell us how each of the kids, what's their situation, and it's not. So they tell us a bit about them. It's not the same. So if we are in the pediatric section, we have babies until they're 14. It's not the same to perform for a newborn or a 6-month-old baby than for a kid of 8 years old or than for a teenager. It's not the same to perform when a kid is nervous because they're going to get an operation, or when a kid is isolated in a room for months due to their treatment, or a kid that is getting dialysis, needs to be for 4 hours laying on a bed, getting the blood cleaned. So there are very different cases, and we have our resources as clowns. We take also music with us as a very important tool in order to work with very small kids or babies that they can only hear. That's the first thing we do as humans. And we sing lullabies also for families, for mothers that are breastfeeding, for fathers that are with their babies. Well, we adapt our work with the resources we have. We improvise. We have certain different characters, always referring to the hospital world. I'm Dr. Max Recetas, conmigo no te metas. That means receive doctor, please do not get on with me. We have different characters, Dr. Ambulancio, Enfermero Baldomero, all clowns, and all the characters are related to the hospital world. We go with scrubs also, and we adapt to what they tell us. We do our clown diagnosis when we reach the room, and it's a work of listening to the kids, because as I said before, they do not come to see you. You go there to their room to see them, and you need to know where you are entering, not to do any silly thing between quotations, because you're in a hospital, and sometimes smiles and laughs that are related to the clowns is not good for a kid that has just been operated, for example, of appendicitis. You cannot make him laugh, or you need to be very careful, or a kid that has just come out of surgery. I will speak about other programs that we have afterwards, but we always work with emotions. Sometimes you find kids, and we always ask for permission, and sometimes you find kids that do not want you to go inside the room because they're fed up of people entering the room. They cannot say no, and then they find 2 silly guys with a red nose, and they ask you if they can come in, and they just say, no, I don't want to see you. And you find many no's. There is a no, yes. I remember a case of a kid. We knocked at the door. We opened the door, we asked, can we come in? And he said, no, with a smile in his face. So we went away, we waited for 4 seconds, and we tried it again. Can we come in now? And he said, no. And we played for several times with that no, with open eyes and a big smile. And all for a sudden, we hit a bit, we stayed there, and the kid was there, and he said, okay, come in, so I can say no. Come in again, so I can tell you to go away. That was the game, that was the play that he wanted to play. So we entered, we asked, do you want us to sing a song, to do juggling, to play with puppets? And what did he say? I want you to go away. And we said, okay, we know how to do that. Okay, no, we're not going to saying goodbye. We're very serious. So began entering and going away with different ways of going away. And the kid, in the end, she was just laughing. Sometimes is a fatherly or motherly no. Is the father or the mother that opens the door, sees your dress and says, okay, my kid is ill, why are you coming in? And sometimes you need to respect that no, you just stay outside. And once I was in the corridor waiting because my colleague was in a room where there was a kid that had been abused by a man, and she didn't want men to go inside the room, so I stayed outside. My colleague went in, and then I found myself with a man that was also waiting in the corridor. I was dressed up as a clown, being Dr. Mas la class, and the guy looked at me and said, okay, please do not get inside this room. And I didn't have that much experience back then. I was in the beginning of my career there, and he said, okay, go to the parking to do this. You cannot do this here in the room of my daughter. And I said, okay, don't worry. So I stayed there, and at that moment the nurse came out with a tray of with different medicines, and she said, oh, you're here. So the kid has told me that you need to go in, she's waiting for you. I looked at the nurse, I looked at the man looked down, and he did like that. Okay, go in, it's okay, you can go in. So I went in. So imagine how the kid convinced her parents for the clowns to go inside the room. So there are different, you play with different emotions, different levels, and people that begin screaming or throwing things at you because you provoked those reactions. I remember the case of a kid that had a brain shock, commotion, and he went inside the emergency, so the intensive care unit. In the corridor I found a psychologist, and he saw us, and he got a chair and wanted to throw it at us. No, that was the grandfather. He was a psychologist, and his grandson was going to die, and we were dressed up as clowns. So there are some hot spots within the hospitals. You need to know where you are, because sometimes we go to the intensive care unit, we go to different places, or so you have an idea. I tell you this so you have an idea of our work, and sometimes the vision of what it is to work in a hospital. And as I said before, along these years, it is the team, the health team, that asks for us, that is happy working together with us. They know that there is a serious moment for us during the working day. We just meet them, and they tell us how each kid is, what's the situation of each kid, and they they asked us to do certain actions. For example, kids that are receiving physiotherapeutic treatments, when they need to move one part of their body and they do not want to do it, so we create a choreography. I remember a kid, she was quite harsh, a hard kid. She was angry. She didn't want to do what we wanted to, what the physiotherapist proposed her to do, and we began to tell her, okay, we should not do it like that. Oh, we began doing it wrongly, and she was angry because we were doing it wrong, and she just was telling us how to do it. She thought, no, you're doing it wrong, the clowns were doing it wrong, so she was teaching us how to do it. Or, for example, a kid, she didn't want to get a spirometry, that means blowing on a probe. So we did a competition, so kids that need to drink water, so we did some different games, or kids that need to pee, and then we begin doing music and sounds so that they do it. You can achieve magical things sometimes, or for example, when they need to do some medical intervention which is painful, for example, an injection, or all these type of things, they call us. Health professionals call us. We've been even present when they need to sew. It's a way of calling their attention when they need to give them stitches. And we also have a beautiful program. There are 3 new programs. One is in the surgery room. We are dressed up in green in the moments where the parents get separated from the kids when they go to the theater, or the operation theater, surgery theater. So they accompany we accompany the kid to the operation theater until they fall asleep due to the medication, and we're also there back when they awake back again. There was a case when a kid was angry because they had brought him to the operation theater, and I tell you the story of how he was angry. We began doing a magical trick when he fell asleep, and when he awake, we resumed that show, that magical show, when he awake, and he was angry because he thought that he hadn't been operated due to the clowns. He thought that he had fallen asleep in the beginning of a magical show trick, and he had awakened continuing that trick. So he was angry. Another program is the video call program, so video conference program. Due to the pandemic, we had to begin doing that. So 2 clowns called the parents in their houses throughout a contact that the health team provided us. We did that video call. That program has stayed there, and once a week there is a possibility of 2 clowns calling to the house or the room of an ill kid. There's another program that we have called PAU program, which is a program where the health team goes to visit those kids that are hospitalized in their houses because they have a chronic illness, receiving palliative care, they need to have permanent surveillance from the health team. And there was a kid called Pau. They didn't know how to motivate him, he was very ill. And they asked her, what do you want from us, from the health team? And she said, I want to have clowns in my house. So they proposed that to us. We went there. The kid was happy. The healthcare team saw that during our performance that she had some absences in her mind, and therefore they needed to provide her with certain medication, and that's why we called it PAU program. I could speak forever, but I want to give the floor now to my colleague Merche.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you. This type of work has been such a benchmark, a reference for all those working with other disciplines in the circus. So in the very moment that clowns enter a hospital, we feel more confident of going into places such as that one with juggling or whatever. That contrast of white with
con
the
ese
other
tándem que
colors.
sí o sí se tiene que generar
the
también
teams,
que generar
the-
con las personas del lugar, ¿no?
You need to
Entonces,
generate
sí que
with the
tenemos que
people
hacer
working
ese
in
esfuerzo
hospitals
también
and those
de
places.
lenguajes,
So we need to do
de
effort
tratar de
in
juntar
terms of
nuestro lenguaje
language
con
to
su
try to
lenguaje
join our language with their
y
language.
la verdad es que el
And the
resultado
truth is
es
that the
maravilloso.
result
O sea
is
que
wonderful.
muchísimas
So
gracias por
thank you
abrir
very much
eso,
for
por abrir esas
opening
puertas.
those
Y
doors to
bueno,
us.
pues vamos con la última invitada de la
So
mañana.
now we have the
con
last
Merche Ochoa,
speaker
sí,
of
que
the
también
morning,
es
Merche
una
Ochoa.
artista que no tiene
She's an
fronteras
artist
entre,
without
digamos,
borders.
eso, en parte la trayectoria artística
Due
y la
to her
pedagógica, que
artistic
también ha sido
history and
muy
also the
consistente.
pedagogic
Y
history,
creo que
which
un
has
poco la
been
mezcla
very
de las
solid,
dos
and the mix of
cosas
both
es
things
lo que
is
genera un
what
poco ese
generates
activismo, ¿no? Que decía
that
también Julieta,
activism, that
y esas
advocacy
ganas
that
de
Julieta was speaking
ir
about, and
cada
that
vez
will
más.
to go
Entonces, desde La
beyond
Rioja a
and beyond.
Barcelona al
So she
resto
has
del
gone from
mundo.
Rioja to Barcelona
Sí,
to the
Merche
rest of the world.
Ochoa actualmente forma parte
Nowadays,
del
Merche
equipo de
Ochoa is
docentes del
part
máster
of
de
the teaching
mediación
team of
artística
the
de la
Master of
Universidad de Barcelona.
Artistic Mediation in the
O sea que
University
hemos
of
roto
Barcelona.
también
So we have
otras barreras,
also
¿no?
broken other
Sí, entrando en las
borders. We have
universidades,
entered
como,
the
hola,
university
¿qué tal?
saying, hello, we are here.
Entonces también colabora con Payasos Sin
She
Fronteras
also collaborates
y con
with
Payasas
Clowns Without
Sin
Borders
Fronteras,
and
¿sí? Como
Payasos and
un
Payasas
proyecto más
Without
dirigido
Borders,
a
so
mujeres
female clowns without
y
borders,
niños
a
y niñas en
project
situación de violencia
focused
machista.
on women.
Colabora también con Save the Children.
She also
Y
works with
en
Save the
2011
Children,
funda
and
y
in
dirige el
2011 she
Ring
founded
Clown
the
Circ, que es
Ring
una escuela, es un
Clown
proyecto
Circus.
de
It's a
investigación y
school
formación
and research project
regular para payasos y payasas.
for clowns.
Sí, y bueno, pues recibió muchísimos
She
premios.
has received many awards.
Bueno,
Not only
pues para
one.
mí,
Oh, for
para
me,
mí, creo que
I
el
think
que me ha llamado más la atención es el premio
the-
Mujeres en el
that
Arte, ¿no?
award of
La
the
Rioja,
prize of
que
Women
yo
in
creo
Art
que
in La
este
Rioja.
es
This one for
como
me is very important.
una
It has
satisfacción,
been
aunque bueno,
honor and
nos vas a
a
contar
pleasure
de las
to
otras más
see
satisfacciones
it, but
que
you're
has
going to tell
tenido
us a bit more
en
about
esa carrera,
those experiences that you have
encantadora.
had in your
Bueno.
career.
Bueno, bien, sí. Ese premio me gustó mucho porque me lo
I liked the award because it was given to me in my homeland, and it has taken too much time for me to be acknowledged as an artist in my homeland, and I have the honor of saying it.
Y entonces también se te pasa, ¿no?
Now I'm a bit older, and I'm not shameful of saying things. I also received El Premio, the award of Circus Town in 2011, and also I'm going to speak here with a gender-sensitive perspective.
Soy la tercera mujer
I'm the third
que ha ganado ese premio.
woman that has won that award, and the first clown, female clown, so I'm very proud of being in that ranking. I'm proud because it visibilizes our work, and also because we open ways for those newcomers. So clowns.
El clown es, para
Clown,
mí,
for me,
vamos a ver, dinamita absolutamente todas las fronteras.
it breaks all borders, all limits, innocence, from that horizontal look that it provokes, from that looking and seeing who you have in front of you, because it humanizes from its own language what's happening, and that allows it to be a key to open many doors. I think that's why clowns have been able to conquer such complex places such as hospital rooms, to reach health teams, to reach refugee camps, or those places that are very difficult. We have broken the frontiers of stages, cabarets, streets to find other places to work. I reached the social clown world by chance, as all good things that have happened in my life. Also because I was aware of that, because sometimes when you do not know where you're going, you just say, okay, let's go there, because you're a bit reckless when you're young. And that's why I think it's very important to be properly trained and be aware of all these things, because in the world of cooperation intervention you see many things and not everything is positive. I'm going to give some put some shadows in this topic because I think it's important. Julieta was speaking about our privilege as Europeans with a passport, our privilege of being white, and it's true, we can reach other places, but also sometimes we are a bit arrogant, and that's dangerous. We're not going to teach or change anything, we're not going to correct or modify anything, because there's nothing to teach, there's nothing to modify, there's nothing to correct. We're going to share. That's what we have, and we share from what we know how to do with our skills, and that's why it's important. Even though our work is a voluntary work, it's important that we are properly trained. We need to be great professionals, because when we go to a place with a public in the situation of vulnerability, we need to give excellence. We cannot give anything, and I think that's very important, because we're here in this privileged place by chance. Those who are on the other side, in the side of vulnerability, of complication, of a very complex situation, difficult situation, they have not chosen it. It has been by chance as well. That's why to approach them, it needs to be from a horizontal place, because you never know when things are going to turn around, and you may find yourself in the other side. I remember one of the expeditions we did in Equatorial Guinea. For me, it was very shocking, because it was my first experience with Clowns Without Borders, and we reached there very innocent, wanting to do shows in the streets. I said, okay, we're going to do that, but in the streets. But there was a great dictatorship, and you could not perform in the streets. Wow. So we reached there, and we needed to rethink the whole project, because we needed to do different things. So we had to perform within the spaces of Spanish cooperation. Those are like embassies, places where they cannot tell you what to do. So we began with 25 kids, and in 1 week more we had 75 young people that wanted to work with us in the workshops, performances. So that made us to think that what we were doing was good, was right, was working, and there was a person there teaching them to do a circus, and he was a circus artist. And then when Guinea Equatorial was a Spanish colony, and when they opened the borders a little bit, because they did it so that when that happened, he came back to their country. So he looked at us, he was very happy to be able to share with colleagues that came there. And one of the things that really shocked me the most, and it has happened many times afterwards, they told us, thanks for being here, thanks for remembering that we are here, and please, when you get away from this place, please speak about us. And when I think about this sentence, I feel once and again moved, because they tell us this sentence once and again. They tell us to speak about them, to tell what's happening there. And one of the things that we do the most when we reach such places is to bring them hope, to bring them humanity, the idea that they're not alone, that someone thinks about them, and someone that does it from a place that is not assistentialist anymore. We have overcome the phase of they already have food, they have health care, etc. But you go there to do a performance, a show, to do a workshop, and what you're feeding is the soul of that person. You are remembering him, that he is a human. You are making him to recover his own personality, his own humanity, and you're providing him something that is not purely physical, and that's very important. Because words such as cooperation and intervention are a bit arrogant. What we do is to share. That's my way of seeing things.
Tengo todavía mucho rato. Y entonces, ahora os quiero
So,
dicho así como, no, porque me parece que es importante.
I think
¿no?
it's important to say this.
Compartir con la gente es muy
To share with people is important,
Pero hay que hacerlo, yo
but
creo
we
que
need to do it
donde uno hace las cosas bien, donde sabe lo que está haciendo.
from a place where you know how to do things. You're properly trained.
Tiene la capacidad de llegar a lugares
Also,
que no se llega de otro modo.
we have the possibility of reaching places such as hospitals or refugee camps. And this social dimension of circus, I think you can do it in many ways. One way is going to those places, but also there are different audiences. I'm going to tell you about this in 2 projects that I have participated, which are captive audiences. Captive audiences, for example, the project Clowns Without Borders, Female Clowns Without Borders. We did this in houses where women victims of male violence were sheltered there with their kids. A refugee camp is very shocking, but I'm going to tell you about projects that I cannot where I cannot take pictures. I cannot show you pictures because I'm risking those people there. You cannot take a picture because any referent can make that the criminal would exert his violence on that women. Any of those girls in those spaces, we did not know where they were. We need to sign confidential agreements. There are women from all nationalities with their kids there. They live in very small houses because it's a very small building. They share bathrooms. The boys sometimes share rooms with people from other families, from other nationalities, and also girls. They do not have an intimate space, and these women have suffered violence in many senses, and it's very precarious. Even though it's a shelter, it's a very precarious place. So imagine, I want you to imagine for a moment a room which is a bit like this space here, where you find 8 women with their children, and then 3 clowns go there. Hello, there we are. So there are women that by culture have not any reference of what a clown is, and then other people look at you thinking, who are these crazy people? Why are they here? They began doing something else. And you're there until, for example, Lola gets her head inside the fridge, and then they look at you. These people, they begin thinking that you work with honesty, with truth of what's happening. You work with the difficulty, and they begin understanding that you do not go there to make fun of them, but to share with them. And then all of a sudden, doesn't care what you're doing on stage because they begin participating with you, playing with you, and in the end what they want is to participate in that game and to share with confidence in another human being that is coming there, is not going to be painful as a human. And that's very important. Many things have happened in these women shelters. Sometimes they see what's happening and then they go to take the kids, and then, for example, the other way around, they bring the kids because you're a clown, and then they begin participating afterwards. But always we have spent more time speaking and showing them things after the show, showing them how we work, what's our dress, our noses, for example, because they need to share. They need to feel a human being in a normal situation. And what afterwards leaves a bit of a bittersweet taste is that these projects do not have continuity, because you open a door, you make a performance, and then you disappear because either you do not find funds, there is a pandemic, you need to do it online, but this doesn't work online because they do not have the means, or you cannot keep doing it because it doesn't work, simply doesn't work. So when you go to clown. It's great that it has worked. When you go to the hospitals, I mean, you begin a relation, a link with them. So it didn't work online. And that's the bittersweet feeling of those situations. Sometimes you open a door, you give them hope, and then you need to abandon them and leave the project unfinished. That's frustrating. And I want to tell you about another project. During the pandemic, Save the Children called us, or they called me, and asked me to go there and work, do workshops or do some performances in the shelter houses of the non-accompanied underage migrants. They were pre-teenagers. They were 15, 16 years old, almost, because when they're 18, they just put them outside of the shelter houses. That's the reality. They think they are prepared for life, and they were a bit close to that moment. They closed to shelters because they didn't have money, and they had to relocate some of them. Most of them were Moroccan, some sub-Saharan, but most of them came from Morocco, and they come from very harsh situations. They have seen their colleagues that have been killed. They come with very harsh life histories, and they come with hope that their life is going to change, but that's not the situation, because when they reach the shelter houses, some of them do not speak the language, they cannot go to school, and that's very harsh because they do not have much time to prepare before they go into the streets. So this is another of the big challenges. So how do we go there? I decided that all of the kids there in the shelter houses, and we wanted to go there, two female clowns and also a juggler. They love juggling. They like to see objects, and because it calls their attention, and they afterwards they keep working with that. So we went there, Churri, Gina, and I, and Panettone. We went there, and they looked at us. Imagine, so teenagers, all guys, boys. It smelled like hormones because those shelter houses were closed up places. All of them sitting like this. So we went inside very happy like that. So we cannot play because we had face masks. We went inside clapping, and they were looking at us like that. And after some time, but in the end they were really interested. So step by step we made them to be interested in the performance. In the end they helped us, they wanted to take pictures, it worked, it really worked. It was great, it was cool, they were very happy. They asked the juggler how he was doing his show, because he was using a sweep. We like to work with materials that are very close to their daily life, so things that they can find inside the house. And that was beautiful, because they were forced a bit to be there. The tutors just made them to sit there and look at the show, and you reach that place, and you need to do your performance for the clowns. But afterwards, for me, that's one of the great borders that we need to break, the resistance of the other to. Because the other doesn't want you to make fun of him, and when you break that wall, then the real human communication begins. That's our great potential, that's our great tool, and I think this is where we need to get support. I wish we shouldn't have to do that work.
Bueno, ojalá el mundo estuviera
I wish the world was better, was healthy, and we could share from different places. But I'm going to use these 2.5 minutes I have left to tell you that there is another zone that we should also work in, because all this we do voluntarily, right? When we go to these places, we do it in a voluntary work.
sin un intercambio, ¿no?, económico muchas veces.
There's not a monetary interchange. So when we do this,
Por ejemplo, yo en el Rinconcito,
for example, the Rinconcito, we are intervening in our district. I have a clown who is sitting in a wheelchair, and I'm trying to get equipment in stages in the civic centers or in the different theaters that they adapt the stages so she can go in and perform, but not as a collective. So to have a clown company where there is a clown with a wheelchair, to be integrated, we need to normalize all this. Integration needs to be normalized. We have done also a tale. We need to normalize all this. If someone goes to the library to read a book and sees a clown on a wheelchair, for example, then we are normalizing this. We are showing, we are visualizing the reality of the world, because the world is diverse and these things happen. There are great projects and small projects, and all of them are important when it comes to breaking barriers and approaching cultures and diversities. And I think with this,
me sobran
still have 40 seconds left. How about that?
Bueno, no, voy a usar. Gracias por invitarme.
Okay, I needed to say thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And besides, I'm a bit ill. I wanted to be here, so half a minute. So I wanted to thank you. I'm going to use your 40 seconds. I need to say that it's very important when we do expeditions. I do not have experience in hospitals, but we need to say what we see there, disclose what we see there. For example, with foreign minors and unaccompanied minors, their situation, we need to explain it to the other people. When you go and speak with a friend, we need to explain to them what's happening in these situations. We shouldn't forget certain situations.
Yo también, ya puesto que se rompemos un poco la dinámica.
So I also wanted to say that precisely, and that's why I liked to begin doing this work in a professional way. That means getting money. Why? Because that assures certain things. The first one is regularity, periodicity. So you come here on Monday and they know you're going to be back on Thursday, and along their stay in the hospital they are sure that they're going to see you again and again, and you can only achieve that by professionalizing this job. And that's what I also wanted to mention, that the patient can suffer anything, but the clown is always there. And you know, we all are experts in looking for funds, but that's what assures the continuity. And another important thing that I also wanted to highlight is the training. My main objective in Payasos Hospital has always been that minors that see clowns in the hospitals see the best clowns that they have ever seen in their life, because it is in the very moment when they most need it. They need good clowns that know how to listen, can adapt, that have resources. That's why we have invested part of those funds in training and in a continuous training. It's not that, okay, I'm now a hospital clown, and I can just stay there. No, we keep training ourselves so that we improve more and more, not to get used, because in our profession is easy to do your 4-5 tricks or shows and that's all. No, one needs to continue training himself. You need to be able to adapt to the different situations and also advance into medical training that we need in order to understand the medical language, and also a psychological training that's basic. Besides the motivation that the artist has, the motivation of wanting to work in a refugee camps, in a hospital, in a shelter, whatever. So we need a psychological training so you are able to be aware and sure of what you're doing and have a professional training where you can face situations of pain, suffering and death. Because the healthcare team was asking us, do you get training on death? And we always say yes, because it's a reality. Sometimes we go there the next week and that patient has died, or they call you and tell you, okay, please can you come, because it will be the last time you will see that kid. Sometimes it's the parents that want you to go inside there in the very last moments of life, and you as professional need to be prepared to face those situations and not just say, no, I cannot do it. You're not there to feel sympathy, compassion. You're not the nun. No, you are fulfilling a mission. You need to be prepared. After so many years, now we are giving training to the doctors and nurses of how to approach a patient, how to approach a kid, someone in the bed, how not to invade the space. I think the most important thing, at least from my experience and also from what Julia has said, there is not one single stage in a hospital. We do not put kids into a stage. You need to create your space, your scenic space, and sometimes it's just this, because the kid cannot move. You need to get inside his own stage, and he cannot feel invaded, but also should not be scared. So it's difficult. You need to know where to place yourself within that hospital room, where the kid feels comfortable watching your performance, and that's 80% of your job. Those who have never been in a hospital working in that sense, you can see it due to the training, of course. That's all. Sorry, we can never stop speaking, but another important thing, because we always work when we do this type of work of having captive audiences, expeditions, hospitals, we will find different realities with different cultures, with different social variants, different things, and you always need to work with respect, with an absolute respect towards the other person. Because without respect, you cannot have a horizontal communication, and that's important for me. Okay, I think this was the part of debate that we wanted to generate. When the debate is spontaneous, it's because we feel things that connect us, and that diversity of imagining and acknowledging and seeing that there is an invisible string that joins all these experiences, and also that path of being humble in order to be able to reach those realities we are all here showing. So the debate has come up spontaneously. And I wanted to speak a bit about that therapeutic dimension, and I think that's why we all have spoken about the importance of being constant, that it cannot be a single experience that finishes one day. So one day you experience with circus and the next day you don't have it. That's precisely what we want to consolidate, that therapeutic character, that vindication, that it is really something that we need in our life, and many people need it. So
que podamos desarrollar en cualquier
it's important that we are able to develop such action
dar las claves
and
porque
to give the keys, because we need references, we need benchmarks, we need to tell stories, even though when you cannot tell them, it's important to do it. So how, besides having changed our life and our environment, how can we continue in this process of self-assurement and consolidating the importance of this path? How can we keep sharing the tool and breaking those barriers? It's a bit what I think we all want to hear. So towards where can we walk? I wanted to explain something that happened to me in Hospitalet de Llobregat some months ago doing family circus workshops. So the parents came, they stayed in the door, crossed arms, kids were playing, and then the father just all of a sudden gets a ball, just throws it away. 30 minutes later, the father is having much more fun than the kid. So they come with the idea of having a workshop for the kids, but then they end up participating. I love seeing that grandmother doing hula hoop and having much fun, because they are living, they are experiencing, they are moving their bodies. It's therapeutic. It's an experience. It's an experience.
Está practicando eso que tú ves ahí en el
They are practicing what they see in the circus. And that happened to me in Hospitalet de Llobregat. A woman from India came accompanying her kid, and in the end of the workshop, she began playing with me. And I was telling her, okay, we only have 5 minutes left, but we were playing with the ball. Her friend were recording that. And for me, that day was something different, and seeing that woman just seeing her kid playing with material and then becoming part of that and enjoying that workshop. Just for me, when I see such things, I feel moved, and I see that the circus is an infinite tool for all ages. Because we all can experience, we all should experience different things and get out of the box. I just wanted to share this.
Sí.
Le hemos dado una castaña.
Nosotros hablamos. Abrimos el turno de preguntas. ¿Alguien quiere decir algo?
Bueno, yo simplemente quería añadir lo de...
I just wanted to add that looking to the future, luckily in Payasos de Hospital, which is my project, my mean, we have a Spanish federation where, so in other communities there are similar associations that work professionally, they get paid, they pay the artists, and that allows us to continue with the visits in the hospitals. And also at European level, there is a European federation, and in the world also there are different meetings of hospital clowns. And we are connected in a way, and I think the future is to professionalize our work, to get training and to have a continuous training, to see the quality of our job, to look for funds, because to do those projects and to allow those projects to continue in time. That's the future. Either you have different partners, as in other NGOs. What they ask us is just to justify where we spend our money, and that's what any NGO has to do. So, questions?
Si no hay preguntas externas,
If we do not have questions,
preguntaros en general cuánta de bienvenida hay a la causa social dentro del circo, de los cirqueres, de toda la gente que hace escuelas de circo, artistas. El mundo social es algo en boga, que hay muchas ganas de que el circo llegue a todos los hospitales, a todas las escuelas, a todos los centros de jubilados, o de repente es un mundillo, digamos, ¿cómo está en general el sector? Si veis que es algo que mucha gente que hace circo, que tiene experiencia en clown, dice, vale, voy a dar mi vida a la terapia que es el clown. Y llegar a, o digamos, más a lo artístico, si hay así como dentro de vuestro sector, ganas de que de verdad esto sea terapéutico y que cambiemos día a día todo. Claro.
Vale, yo creo que lo que está pasando ahora es que, por lo menos, yo hablo del territorio que conozco, ¿no? Que es más o menos en Cataluña y la zona rural. Yo creo que la intervención a este nivel social y
intervention at social level, and it's a word that it's really controversial. In social therapy in No Barris, my district, has generated a marginal district. We did many things with the kids in the street. They took them to those spaces to see circus, and they began seeing that the time they spent doing those activities were not in other territories, so to say. They were not committing crimes, they were not smoking, consuming drugs, so they were doing different things, and then all of a sudden they began seeing such things, and people such as Desastrosos Circus or Juanillo, he's still working with this type of activities. They have generated spaces, natural spaces. In No Barris, for example, in Catalonia, we have built that space, and now they are organizing, as you have federations, we are generating organizations that work in networks and that get support, not only because we all together are stronger, but also because we share experiences. I don't think that we are on a hype. It's not a fashion. It would be terrible. I think we are a reality, a new reality, comparable reality, and it's necessary one, because we provide spaces for art and culture to become part of everyone, and it's easier. I'm sorry to say it. I'm sorry for other artistic discipline, but it's easier to enter such spaces with a clown nose or with a clown dress than entering with a Van Gogh painting, for example, because we're closer to people with that. And speaking about therapy as well, or if you, for example, are going to go to a Señorita Julia character, this old actor from Spain. They do not know who that is. So circus, it's easier, it's more accessible. So let's continue doing what we do, because it's the best thing we can provide. We are just organizing ourselves and becoming stronger. You're saying no? No. I just wanted to say that you have asked whether it is therapeutic or not. No. What I asked is, this therapeutic dimension is something that calls the attention of students. But is it that way? Well, what I say is that you need to get training, but I don't think it's a fashion, because we have been working in this line for many years, and it would have become old-fashioned already. It's not a fashion, but it's a human need. Sharing and working with emotions. And in order for us to consolidate all this much more, we need to research. We need to have research studies. There are many research studies that have been conducted in my domain, which is the hospital clown. We need to keep showing that we are therapeutic, that anxiety can decrease, that a kid with clowns within the operation theater will feel better, will live that experience with less trauma than when you do not have that therapy. So welcome, please. We need more people in the industry. We are showing that this is therapeutic. It's proved that laughing is therapeutic, that it heals, that it increases body defenses, and you can face the harshest period you can ever imagine throughout humor, which is the only human quality which is different from animals. So welcome, please. We need you. We need students with artistic quality. Please get good training. We will try to keep training you to enter such complex spaces.
No, o sea que solo porque soy muy expresiva y a veces mi cara habla.
I'm very expressive, so I may have shown it with my face. But what I was thinking while you were speaking about what artistic language is more accessible, or what forms of art are more accessible, well, I would also speak about how to make them accessible, more than speaking about themselves being accessible. Because I do not work in circles, I work with other languages. I've done cultural mediation and artistic mediation, and my tools are different. But I feel that in the end, those far away from contemporary art and the discourses of art and conceptual, if you give them the tools to enter that space and feel them moved by those spaces, well, it may be useful. I don't mind that it is a Van Gogh, or I just wanted to clarify my face, because I just wanted to.
Y que luego también es verdad que me resuena vuestro discurso cuando lo hago propio y lo traslado a mí.
Sympathize with your discourse when I bring it to my working spaces, when I work in a museum or in theater, and I see that, yes, we are seeing a change in terms of we are making more accessible these spaces, and also that art is a tool that is more and more normalized in all teaching and learning processes. We need to normalize that we can learn with art in a brutal way, and to experience art too. And not only memorizing, reproducing. I think art is culture and needs to be accessible for everyone. I gave that example because I'm sorry, I'm just very instinctive when I speak, but from a picture, for example, can open an important door. So whatever form of art, I mean, it's true that the nose, juggling, physical work, physical cooperation, and I've seen it in the markets of Nicaragua, those kids that came to do to work as acrobat tasks or juggling or whatever. You are working with some layers that may open the door to look for more subtle things, so to say. It's not that I didn't want to see it to say that it is not so important. But that's what I wanted to say. I think the playful dimension of art is a powerful dimension, and any artistic language has it. Many times we do not approach art because we are scared of it. And circus, for example, I think it's a bit far from the majority of people that think that you need to be a specialist or have certain skills to approach the circus, and that's another topic. I'm not sure how you see it.
Esto en la gente.
Bueno, es que yo creo que aquí hay dos cosas. O sea, yo creo que tenemos como...
Well, I think there are two things here.
No hay como término medio.
There's not an average thing.
Vale. Uno, la cosa es...
So first of all, on the one side, you see the clichés. People think that the clowns are hippies or just bohemian people. They do not like them. Or we have the other side. They see clowns and they think that's very difficult. You cannot approach them. And that's what we need to work on. That see people that they can access our world to the extent of what they need. It's good that everyone knows our world and but it's also good that they see us as great professionals and they admire us. So we need to find that zone where everything is accessible, but we break with those clichés. Sometimes we just polarize things, and that's not helpful. And we need to have more education, more education. That's the key.
A mí cuando me digan que paremos es que me sabe mal. ¿Estás bien?
¿Quién controla
Sí.
lo de los ¿El chico este?
Ah.
Thank you for the inspiring
Muchas gracias por estas historias tan inspiradoras que nos habéis
like
contado.
as you mentioned before with the clowns and with the missions you've been doing like in several places as Lebanon, Western Sahara and
el Sahara.
Vean los payasos.
Los payasos llegan siempre tarde. Yo no sé cómo se ponga esto.
Esta imagen es buena, ¿eh?
Repeat, please.
Can you repeat, please?
Hi.
De traducción.
Thank you for the inspiring
gracias
stories
por estas historias
that
tan
we've heard. It's really
inspiradoras.
inspiring and gives a lot of motivation.
Inspiradoras y nos dan mucha motivación.
First thing, like it's not a question, but
Lo
it's
primero no es una pregunta, sino más
as
bien
you mentioned, like is
comentario
we
como has
as
dicho,
circus artists,
nosotros,
trainers,
artistas
clowns,
de
like
circos,
what we can do, what
¿qué es
is
lo que
our
podemos
lines
hacer?
in working.
¿Cuáles son nuestras líneas de trabajo
We know that
para
we go
formar a
to
las
harsh
personas?
places.
Sabemos
We
que
know that we are not going
vamos
to,
a lugares
to change the
difíciles,
situation there. We're not going to
no
change the
vamos a
life of
poder
people are
cambiar
living
las
there.
vidas de las
We
personas
can't
que
solve the
viven allí.
problems that
Podemos
they face. But as you mentioned earlier, it's more we share with people there. And I think sharing with people will raise awareness about these issues and can lead to a change in the future, because unfortunately the change is a political change at the end if we want to change the world to a better place. So sharing is I think it's a step forward in raising awareness, which leads to hopefully political change in the future. I have a question for Payasos Hotel.
Hospital.
Yes, it's you. Like being in the hospital and seeing like sick children, old people, surgical operations, and even sometimes death in the hospitals. How do you stay healthy mentally? How do you keep your mental health?
Gracias a la formación continua. Tenemos todos los meses reuniones con todo el equipo artístico que trabaja en el hospital. Tenemos una parte
and we share in those meetings. So there are different tools that allow us to face such situations. One is the initial training, where the psychologists tell us or reflects a bit on which have been our pains during life in order to understand the pains that we're going to find with the parents and situations we experience. There is the initial training, and then there are other tools. One is when we finish our working day, we write down everything that we have done with each of the cases. It's a way of cleaning ourselves and getting rid of our experience. Then monthly, the clowns write a report of the cases that have shocked them the most. That's another way of freeing themselves of those experiences. And third, the continuous training. Each 3-4 months there is, so we gather every month the team to speak about what has happened in all the hospitals in the Valencian region. Once a month, all the clowns, and we tell each other the cases we have experienced, and we also get information on the case of each of the kids, if they have died or not. We share all this, and once every 3-4 months we have a psychologist coming with us to make a session with us in order to work with all the losses that we have accumulating during the months, along the months, so a morning session. And as last tool, we have telephone. So we all, at any time, if you need to share something, you can call a colleague. You can even call the psychologist, because if you have faced a situation that has shocked you emotionally, have moved you, all these tools make the team to be able to face individually in their daily life those very harsh cases emotionally.
You're welcome. Very good job. Simple.
Now we will have a pause, and at 12:30 we will meet again to speak about building of a Mediterranean network, and you're all invited to this. So see you at 12:30.
básicas por mi carrera profesional, comunicación audiovisual.
Pues no tienes básicas, no te creas.
Hemos estudiado en la de Valencia, que no la Valencia, supongo que es como la peor.
Pues si queréis, sí, así yo. Por mi parte,
Vale. Gracias. A ver, si queréis nos ponemos aquí, chicos, ¿eh?
No, tranquilo, sí.
Sí. Y ya te vale apoyar a tus compañeros. Mójate, mójate, mójate.
Pasito para adelante, vaya. Menudo marrón nos pasamos.
Pues seguimos.
Okay, let's continue with this social circus workshop sponsored by Mostra Viva. And now we're going to open a space for debate and reflection around the topic that we have been dealing for many years in Mostra Viva, which is the creation of a Mediterranean network of interchange of Mediterranean circus. And for that, we would like to have all the people that had been participating along these days, but each one of them have their own professional life and they had to leave. So in order to begin speaking about this topic, we need to provide some context around the idea of Mediterranean and Mediterraneity. And in Mostra Viva, we know that the Mediterranean, beyond a geographical space, is a common space and a common good. It is a place where we share much of our identity and culture. That means we have a common past that configures ourselves, and this identity and culture needs to be reflected in the circus. So in what way this Mediterraneity is present in circus? We also think that the Mediterranean is a space for living together, for cultural interchange and cultural cooperation, and such values we want to work and reflect and convey throughout circus and other artistic languages or manifestations. So speaking about living together and cultural cooperation and such values can be done from many different points of view, and we wanted to do it from the Mediterranean space. This is the first point. We can go to the next slide. So I think we have, so thank you, Virginia, for the introduction. So we are Virginia, Gustavo, we work for Mostra Viva of the Mediterranean. So along these sessions we have been speaking about circus, inclusion, about what tools should we take into account in order to do our works and our tasks, and now we want to focus a bit more on the objectives of the citizen association Mostra Viva del Mediterrani. Virginia has already spoken about certain concepts that may not be so clear, such as what the Mediterranean is, how cultural cooperation works. These are concepts that may not be accessible to everyone in our society, so we want to give some context around this topic. Well, you can see a map of the Mediterranean here. The Mediterranean is not only a geographical space, but also a meeting point. This is proved by more than 2,000 years of history that have meant a relation between the different civilizations. Mediterranean has been the cradle of the three monotheistic religions. It has been a key point in terms of economic interchanges, trade, conflicts also, migrations. We can highlight, for example, during the Spanish Civil War, many people from Valencia and Alicante migrated to Algiers with the Stambrook ship. This is a very recent example of how the Mediterranean has not only been a geographical space where we have lived, but we also have had a connection, and we have nowadays a connection. So we have some shared roots and history, and we think that this can also have a reflection on the circus. The topic can be very wide, so speaking about circus, social circus, what can we have in common? The different inhabitants of this mare nostrum, of this sea. That's why now we speak about cultural Mediterranean, a Mediterranean where not only this physical interchange, this migrations join us, but also at a cultural level we have common features. For example, the song of La Tarara, whose origins are not very clear, but my personal opinion is that it is a completely Arabic song. Now it belongs to the tradition of the Spanish songs, but the researchers are doing their job. But there are many different manifestations and many different elements that are shared with other countries of the Mediterranean, such as Algiers, Morocco, Turkey, Lebanon, or Croatia. Countries that we do not pay much attention to them because we always look towards Europe. We feel like European Union, but we do not have that common sense of belonging to the Mediterranean as much. But this cultural interchange has been the one that we want to promote from La Mostra. Can you change slide? And we are not only geographical neighbors, but also cultural neighbors. So we share this common culture understood in a wide sense, not only thinking about music or the stylistic relation of music between different civilizations, but also in the way we behave. Yesterday, for example, we were speaking about, or we were saying, speaking about the closeness of people from Spain and Italy compared to the personal closeness that we have with people from Belgium. This is a cultural question, a cultural element. Yes, and above all, I think these common links that we have and link us to a common past, or that come from a common past, I think nowadays are more necessary than ever in a globalized world where we or certain identities begin to get confused and we get lost in that global identity, that globalized identity. So Mostra Viva shows the need of creating an east-west axis against that verticality of north-south. So this network will be a reflection of that vision that we vindicate from Mostra Viva, because as you know, once a year we do a cultural meeting that lasts for a month, and with this we value all this discourse of the Mediterranean. And the project, the Social Circus project, is one project more of Mostra Viva that this year has not been during the agenda of that meeting, but we think that has a value as a project itself in order to tackle the specificity of circus, of that social dimension, beyond the fact that in Mostra Viva we have our own agenda focused in shows and exhibition, but this meeting wants to visualize and show how throughout circus we can articulate a network of interchange and generating dialogues, opening spaces so that we accompany each other and we tell and we contribute with each other from our experience, our practice, and our own vision. And this is the challenge. This is the challenge, and we want to see how you think about it, how you reflect on it, because the question is, how do we keep alive this common culture? How do we keep alive all these relations that join us? So why Mediterranean? We want to mention again that in Mostra Viva we think that it is necessary to open a meeting space, a space for dialogue, in order to establish such links. These bonds can become a network, a Mediterranean network of interchanges. And this also has to do with the main objective of Mostra Viva, which is the artistic mobility. The artistic mobility that we believe is not only about doing tours, trips, going from one place to another, but to share experiences and to share projects, if it's possible. This is a bit what means to speak about cultural cooperation, to share knowledge, to share know-hows, to have interchange relations and also proposals that become maybe projects. What examples do we have nowadays of networks in other fields around the Mediterranean? We can exemplify two here. This Mostra Viva and Colabora, with which we collaborate. It's the Anna Lind Foundation. It's a Euro-Mediterranean network that has different sections in the Mediterranean, and from the European Union they have established a space of dialogue with the civil society in order to create knowledge on what relations at social, political, cultural level do we have in the Mediterranean, and what ways can we establish in order to connect together. And then we have the foundation of Mediterranean Citizens Assembly. Mostra Viva has collaborated very much with this association. It is a main partner with us. It's one of our main links and strategic partners in order to get in contact with foreign actors, and it is based in citizen diplomacy as a tool for mutual acknowledgement in order to establish links and bonds. It has a network of citizen circles in more than 20 countries in the Mediterranean, including Palestine, and it organizes biannual meetings where people from all these circles located in different countries in the Mediterranean gather in order to speak, to see how to improve the relations, mutual respect, and to improve also the visibility of the problems that the Mediterranean has from different points of view. It can be environmental, political, educational, even in terms of communication. So,
pasamos al siguiente. Claro, esta es la máxima de Mostra Viva.
This is the main objective of Mostra Viva del Mediterráneo. We always work with that utopian view of going or committing with artistic mobility. I said utopian because it takes a lot of effort, because we need resources that we do not have, and it's very complicated to tackle that aim. But everything we do, all the activities we do in Mostra Viva aim, so seek for that objective, artistic mobility, which is not only traveling from one place to another place, but to facilitate meeting, dialogue, and to create common projects. And in particular in the cultural sphere, and to facilitate that cultural interchange or view. And we were saying before that that concept of cultural cooperation needs to be understood as re-acknowledging oneself in the other, so mutually acknowledging the other, and it's like transcending that first layer of artistic mobility, understood as a place to show your self. This was the first edition of the Circ Social meeting, social circus. This was one of the spaces that we promoted. There was an oral meeting. It is the space, the area where we have been able to facilitate such meeting, such dialogue. Maybe you want to explain it a bit more, because you know that cooperation, collaboration with our girls. We had Subida, she is the director of the festival, the Deixaran. And there we are in one of the headquarters of the festival in La Casa de Patrais. We had Subida, is the woman on the left of the image. She directs a festival in Oran of oral narration. You can imagine that
de obstáculos.
We found also many obstacles in order to bring non-communitarian peoples, of people from outside the European Union, to Valencia. But it's good that we have more international presence in Mostra Viva. And it is a good thing that we can also go to those other festivals to participate from their experience and to contribute in a way. I was going to say something, and I've forgotten it, but it's important to highlight that, and you know it very well, you too, not all countries have the same facilities, the same access to move around, to travel. These two guys, it took them a couple of days to come to Valencia. They made a great effort to come and to be here. It also has to do with how we manage the trips of our participants, but there are some realities that are a few kilometers away from Valencia and that are almost in a catastrophic situation. In Algiers, for example, Zubida was telling us that they found many problems to bring people from other countries to Algiers, to entities that were not linked to the Algerian government. There we find the hand of the fact powers, and but we can say that we have sort of the obligation of tackling these questions, and that's one of the white books of cultural management in Spain said that we need to tackle at the same level the European culture, the Ibero-American culture, and the Mediterranean culture, due to the link, the cultural link that they have between them, these three cultural groups, because obviously there are many different subcultures within these three fields that the White Book mentions. But we have a link, and our profession shows it, and we also follow the mandate of this document, which is a guide for professionals of cultural management. So I think now we can go to the next slide. And we can now open the conversation. Yeah, because I was going to speak about decolonialization, but that's a different topic, so we could speak about that forever, about hegemonic cultures, cultural alliances, etc. But it's not the case. We wanted to speak about circus, right? So we wanted to make this small presentation as representatives of Mostra Viva, and the space, this space that we have opened is a space to speak with you about. So the first question we wanted to ask is, do you think that these links that we have been speaking about are real, those cultural links in the Mediterranean? A link that really bonds us together.
La oreja enorme, me cabe. ¿No se oye? No. No. A ver.
Hello again.
No hay problemas.
Okay, nice. So as Virginia was saying, there are many links and many challenges, like if we say in the Mediterranean area. Challenges is part of the process. If we want to practice the real values of circus, to be inclusive and to be diversity, acceptance, we need to accept the challenges that comes with these values to practice. And we wish that we live in a utopia, as you mentioned earlier, but we don't live in like a perfect world where everything is easy. So this is the reality, and we have to work with it. Like for example, in our work, this year in the summer, we had like part of our students who was part of an exchange in Germany, and there was a question about like who's to participate, because we have like many students in different locations, different circumstances, and then we said we want really to be inclusive, to practice the values that we pass to children, and this meant that we work with two groups who have intellectual disabilities. So we decided we will also open the call for people with mental disabilities if they want to participate. We work with the girls from conservative areas where they don't finish their basic education and they're involved in team and they never traveled before. Can you hear me?
Igual está muy lejos, ¿no? El micro o del receptor.
Is it the mic?
I think it's the mic.
Hello again. Is it good? Okay, super.
My micro.
No. Okay, it's yours. Yeah. Okay. So I was saying that the challenges that we may face in a simple activity, we may face many challenges in practicing the values of circus. So we decided to include like one of our students who has autism, and that meant that he will come with his mother, which is like an extra coordination and extra money and extra like to have the child with his mother. We opened the call also for girls who've been in the rehabilitation center to apply, and we took two girls from that center, and that meant that we had like plenty of meetings with their families to explain them about traveling, because they live in conservative areas and they never traveled before. So this took like much more energy and like to include them. Plus we have students in Jerusalem, and Jerusalem, it's under Israeli control. So the people we choose from Jerusalem, they will not travel with the group. They have another way of traveling. So in this activity, we faced like, we accepted the challenges, because this is why we do circus. If we want to do circus, then we have to be inclusive, we have to be diverse, and we have to give the opportunity to everyone. So because we believe that circus is for everyone. So I think, as you mentioned earlier, there are like several circumstances, like in the Mediterranean, different backgrounds, different economics, different like social and like traditions in this area, which has like many challenges if we want also to work together. But this is actually, I think, why we are here and why we do circus. So yeah, I think it's to conclude, like its challenges is part of our work. So we have to work like towards it.
Actually, I don't have experience with the circus, social circus, because I'm in with the artists.
No problem.
Vale.
Okay. I'm not sure what to say now, but I'm going to say something. Do you remember the question? Of everything that we've been speaking about, what does that recall in your mind? Well, I'm going to speak a bit of the many different cultures that we have in the Mediterranean. One beautiful thing that you find when you do an exhibition, expedition, that's my experience, is, for example, when you find that interchange, when you are in a camp and a guy pulls an instrument, typical instrument of the country, that he took during his migration, and he took it with him. So he left his house, one got a television and the other one got a musical instrument, and then he began playing it in the Beca camp. There was a small square where all people gathered. That's a population with not so many old people, or you do not see them that much because they are inside their houses. And he spent all the evenings playing the instrument, and it was beautiful. I don't remember the name of the instrument, but it was really beautiful. So as you were saying, we go to places where culture does not reach, but no, it's not like that. Culture reaches many places, many different places, but maybe just one instrument, one traditional game. So you find people that has left everything behind and just takes one little thing with them. Or for example, when I showed the example of the Saharian, which is not exactly Mediterranean, but it's not so far away. We were doing we were in the International Festival of Circus and Theatre, and there they showed us their musics, their dances. That's sharing. I do circus and I show you my circus. You do music, you show me your music. Everything is culture. Everything is about sharing. Is circus what pushes me to enter the door? Yes, but I take home all the experiences of sharing, and that's what culture has. I always say that circus, the beautiful thing about circus is that it has so many disciplines: clown, acrobats, pierce, aerial, juggling, music. So culture as well. Culture is varied from a museum or a visual representation to singing, for example. What else do you want me to say? What is beautiful is to take things home, be them material or just experiences, cultural experiences of the place you go to show your circus. Yeah, that is really cultural interchange. That interchange is happening there. I think culture, in the end, is formed throughout many different elements and practices. So it's not that culture needs to come imposed, but each people has their own culture and their own ways of doing culture, their own rituals, their own cultural manifestations. And sometimes they impose you a culture that is not your own culture. So if these spaces that you're speaking about facilitate such interchange and you think that's a value, well, we agree, and we are speaking about generating a network that gives context and articulates such cultural practices that we want to learn and that become a tool and a vehicle to do other things, such as speaking, reflecting, discussing. We, throughout Mostra Viva, do precisely that. We're not only a cultural festival that simply does programs for shows. We are a cultural project whose mission is to give value and visibilize that common culture in the Mediterranean. And we were saying before that we need to be aware that beyond that north-south model, we also have that east-west model, the two banks or two sides of the Mediterranean have many things in common. and we do not assume that we do not see an integration with that. And me, since I work in Mostra Viva, have reflected a lot on that. So now we are opening with you this debate in order to see how this possible network of interchange located in a field such as the Mediterranean, in an area such as the Mediterranean, can answer certain needs that we can have. Speaking about the circus frame, and we were speaking about this yesterday, we were speaking about how we can help each other, the different associations, with the material. Like the money, the funds I get from my shows, how can I help to send certain materials to places where it is very difficult to buy these materials? We say France is the origin, the cradle of circus, and I buy certain materials to France, and in 24 hours it reaches my home. But if in the other side of the Mediterranean, not to mention any country, if they buy material, it's going to be more expensive, or maybe they do not even have the economic resources to buy it, because whether you like it or not, good circus material is expensive. And if you just like to do it like for your spare time, you just get whatever material. But if you're a professional, you want to have good quality material, whatever, good stills or good whatever. And one of the things that I can offer for my actions is precisely this, to get links, connections, to do some show, and with the money we get, we send material to wherever. So we were speaking about this yesterday in the bar, but that's what I can offer. I also think that it would be nice to know other similar projects similar to Contaminando Sonrisas, my project, and we can maybe work together to help people that do a very good job, because they work day after day. Because it's good to help people there in their own country, so not being us, the white people, to come to their country and impose our projects. And it's nice what you're saying, because you have spoken about a basic need, and it can really affect and have an impact, which is the need for materials, and it can really ease or facilitate the improvement of practices, improvement of projects, or working conditions of the artists in other countries of the Mediterranean. Nur has also said, has spoken about the interchanges. It is essential, someone who is in risk of social exclusion, to share experiences with other people from the other side of the Mediterranean. I think it's a brilliant idea, and I think that's essential. So this year, for different reasons, I've been more linked to, or more interested in, the circus industry sector. I'm studying now Master of Cultural Management. I'm doing my practices in Circ which is the Federation of Professionals of Circus at Spanish level. And thanks to them, I knew that there is a confederation, European federation called Circo Estrada. We have sent them information about this meeting precisely, and I think it would be great for next year to see if we can have someone from Circo Estrada to show us what work they do at European level, because maybe that what they do at European level we can copy instead of north-south, so east-west, maybe. Do you want to say something else?
Me, I'll add, I think, like, as they mentioned before, like, funding is one of the challenges that will be, like, in our way. But of course, at the end, like, there will be a way or another that we can, like, find the possibilities, like, to make this happen. What
Sorry.
What's interesting is that there are many many circuses in many countries around the Mediterranean, but not all of us, and me personally, aware about all these initiatives that in different countries. We know that there is circus in Turkey, but we never been in touch. We know that there is a circus in Morocco that we had a formal relation before, where we invited them to our festival. One of the graduate students from Shamsi, that they were with us yesterday. So it's still between one-to-one. It's not something that it's in a network. And I think, as you mentioned, maybe inviting people, several institutions or networks, to kind of this encounter that we have today can be something that we can establish a little bit more organized and structured organization instead of one-to-one relation. Yeah. Yeah.
No, quería decir que esto es verdad.
I just wanted to say that this is true. We do not really know, all of us. I knew that there were schools, or there was a circuit of social circus in Palestine. But for me, it is a great pleasure to meet you face to face, or yesterday to see each other on the screen live. But how do we do it? How do we all get in touch, in contact? I'm not sure. I accept contacts if you have them, and you can also give my contact to anyone, so you can also know other people that do social circus, and you can give them also my contact if you want. If we had this Mediterranean network of circus, this contact would be more fluent, and this network, this entity, I'm not sure how we could form it, but it would facilitate to look, or that the main function would be to see what circus are there in the Mediterranean, what circuses, and what joins us with the circuses of other countries, and vice versa, what joins them with us. In a complementary way, so different from the relation that we have with Europe. This is something that the Foundation Anna Lindh, this entity that we have mentioned, they have it clear, they know, and this is an entity that I can tell you, I do not belong to the Anna Lindh Foundation, but I know they have a line of help. We have spoken about funds, economic resources, that we need these economic resources, these funds, and the Anna Lindh Foundation is an entity that can provide such funds, and it establishes a line of subsidies or aids to cultural projects. This is an idea that we launched. There are ways, not so many, but there are. And we can do it if we have will, and if we think that it is necessary to establish this way of contact, of meeting, encounter. Yes, in principle, we wanted to see this type of meetings, of forums, evolving towards a whole articulation of a network. We know it's complex. If we do not have almost enough money to do this that we're doing here, imagine establishing a network. But the first step is to identify a need or a desire. So if there is the desire, we can begin working with that. We're not going to generate needs where there is no will or desire. So now we are identifying that will, that need, and then take a step forward. As he was saying, you have mentioned something that, well, Anna Lindh has a line of aids. Also, you can find the European funds. They are limited to Europe, so there we find a limit. Of course, we can generate the space of interchange of but it's limited to Europe, so we need to see other options beyond Europe, and it's true that we are a bit lost in that sense, beyond the networks that we have spoken about, and we also do not know, and we wanted to ask you, from your experience and your practice, how are you connected with the rest of the institutions at international level? What projects do you have together with other entities at international levels, or what projects would you like to generate?
Like as you mentioned, it's important, as you said, it's important that if we establish a network, it should be based on a need and desire from the partners. And I think a first step, like to identify this, we need to have like this meeting on a bigger scale, like to make a scan, like on the Mediterranean, what initiatives and circus schools and circus organizations we have in the countries. Maybe organize an online event like this one, just to know each other, so we know that you exist and me, I exist, and there is another initiative maybe in Algeria exists, we don't know. So it's we need to have this on a bigger scale to scan, and this can be done easily with our networks and our knowledge in the field, like it can be done easily. And I think after knowing each other, this can be a step of pushing this discussion further with all partners. And I think, yeah, this should be a step, like just to know each other in order to be able to discuss like networks. From our experience, circus art in general in the Middle East, it's not something common, it's something new. And in Palestine is the same. It's we established in 2006, and many initiatives like around in the Middle East also still new. We have many partners like with European circus schools. We are part of Caravan Social Circus Network. We are part of FEDEC for professional circus schools in Europe. Most of the networks are in Europe, and some with little interventions from other places in Africa and the Middle East. But because most of the resources and the technical and the artistic and the high level of circus is in Europe, so it's almost the central point for like circus around the world. So that's why we have many connections and partners through the years with several circus schools, and some partnership between like one-to-one organization. It developed later like to a bigger networks. So we had the partnership with one circus school in Belgium. It's called Zonderhanden. 6 years ago, and we had an exchange with them. So some of our students and artists went to Belgium, then a group from Belgium came to Palestine. Next year, we are doing the same exchange, but with 7 circus schools from Belgium. So there will be 20 artists from 7 circus institutions in Belgium will come to Palestine to work on a show together and make a tour. So it started with the one-to-one partnership, and now we're like in partners with 7 organizations. Like, so it developed like over the time and after knowing more. So I think, yeah, it's first thing we need to know and recognize each other as a first step. Yeah.
No sé, es que me parece tantas.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, that network of contacts that you have already established. And it is a very important work that you have done, especially because you have connected with so many entities, and now I think it's on our side, so to say. It's now us that need to look and research, because to see how this idea has a response in other entities, circus entities.
Bueno, eso, o sea, a ver cómo resuena esta idea.
To see how this idea resonates with other entities. But I see that there are these needs from your side, but also from our side, the European side. It's a pity that leadership projects always need to begin from the European perspective. I would love to have a project led by another country from the Mediterranean that has European partners, but you find no problem in the ways of justifying the projects, or the ways of relate from the south and the east, or the north, and not the north of the west. Because me personally, working in Antigona 2.0 with the ACM Foundation, I found many difficulties, real difficulties, to enter into a European project by entities from the third sector, so citizen entities that do not have the means or the resources to begin with a project of this dimension. So we need to see what ways we can find people contacts, and to keep advancing in dialogue and mutual understanding. I also wanted to say that I very much agree with what Nur says, that we need to go step by step, little by little. It's today one step, another step tomorrow, and in the end you build the building and then the mountain. We cannot exit this place with a network already established. We're not so many people now and so many entities. In previous editions we had collaborated with more European schools from Italy, from other countries, where we already began speaking about this possibility, about the network, and we all agree that we need to invite more people, create a forum. That forum probably will be online. And first of all, to scan, to map, and then get in contact, then raise questions and begin generating that architecture of desires. I can give you the contact of Circ which is a social circus project, circus school, very beautiful, that is in Beirut. These are beautiful people that I met in the 2 trips I made to Lebanon, and they do a very beautiful work there in their own country. They are really marvelous people. Circ it's called. From the Mediterranean, I think I do not have more contacts. I wanted to mention, and it's very important to mention them today, the reference of social circus that we have in Spain, in Catalonia, l'Ateneu Popular de Nou Barris. You were there. Do you know the Ateneu Popular Nou Barris in Barcelona? You've been there, right? It's not a question. I know you were there. They may be able to help you because they have had many different collaborations in the past. So I think what we are speaking about is very necessary, to know other projects, because sharing one grows. We know people, the people from Ateneu knows Barris, we know different projects there and we know networks, but the main question here today is, by the way, I'm going to speak about my book, so I'm going to use this forum to speak about myself, my forum. I don't like to be so serious, sorry, I wanted to make a joke.
too much hours. No, o sea, la cuestión es de
So the
nuevo
question is again
si podemos generar ese
to see
relato.
if we can create that common narrative.
¿Entiendes? Es como hay un deseo de generar ese relato común.
Is there a desire to create that common narrative in the Mediterranean? And if there is, how do we begin doing it? There are already structures, networks, organisms. We know all of those you have mentioned, but we want to create something that has to do with the idea of the Mediterranean, because it provides value to certain things that are there, so to say, diluted in a very mainstream culture, so to say.
No es baladí decir y mencionar abiertamente
We
sobre la
should
cultura
mention the mainstream culture as well. Yesterday,
Isam hizo una intervención
Isam intervened, made an intervention called In Between with a song from Mel. We had them last year in a concert in Mostra Viva, and he was shocked that we knew this singer. You know, many times it's closer. Palestine is closer to us than the United States. Why do we know Madonna and we do not know this singer, Mel? So we need to acknowledge and see that we have a cultural link that unites us, and history proves it. And there are entities that are pioneers in this, like Ana Lind Foundation, like Asamblea de Ciudadanos y Ciudadanas del Mediterráneo, and many other institutions that establish in other fields that is not circus, other than circus, but they are concerned about this Mediterranean closeness or neighboring. If we have this data, then, as Virginia said, are we interested to create this common narrative? Are we interested in investing resources in order to research what unites us throughout circus, maybe a university academic research or a journalistic research or any type of research? Are we interested in this? Yeah, we're interested in having data on the Mediterranean bonds that can be established throughout circus. And I also wanted to add the needs that each project has, each school, also the limitations, the interchanges, physical, material interchanges that we can have. Of course, and this is a need that we have noted down and we take it into account. In our perspective as managers, mediators, I'm not sure how to call ourselves. I do not mind about nomenclature if the contents is what has rigor and is important. So when it comes to writing a project, we need to justify the project, and if we do not have data in order to justify that circus has a bond, a link in the Mediterranean, we will not be able to prove that a network is necessary or is not necessary, and it will also be difficult to disclose all this and to give value to the circus sector, to social circus, or the Mediterranean. All these three questions are very invisibilized, so hidden. We are here to help you. I'm looking at the camera for anyone seeing this streaming. We have open hands, open arms in order to contact, speak, collaborate, create projects, common projects, to work to visibilize what is invisible.
No tengo nada más que añadir.
Well, nothing else to add.
No, en serio, es que es eso.
Yeah, it's all about that, nothing more. So I do not want to add something. Well, for me, it would be a pleasure to begin. As the colleague has said, it would need to be online because whether we like it or not, new technologies help us very much to meet all of us without needing to invest so much money in airlines, because they're the ones winning, always winning. When I travel, I always say it, the one earning money is the founder of the airline I travel with. So thank you very much for inviting me. I'm not sure if we are finishing this.
Cerrarlo cuando queráis cerrar y,
Well, we can finish whenever you want.
y cuando el pobre nos diga yo ya no puedo más.
Or when the translator is not able to translate anymore. I just wanted to thank you for inviting me, and I will be waiting for your emails. If you want to give me context from other projects, or you tell me. So I have much homework to take home. I invite you to visit our website.
We are very delighted also to be part of this encounter, and of course we will support with contacts, with brainstorming, with anything needed, like for the network, and to brainstorm the idea behind it, what makes it different from other networks, what can achieve, and we are ready, motivated to go on. Thank you again for the nice hospitality.
Sí, espera, vamos a un poco despedirnos, ¿no? Sí, nada, ha sido un placer compartir esta conversación, también que sea grabada y que sea emitida, que podáis, que cualquiera que le interese
online, and anyone that is interested in this can follow this conversation at any time throughout our YouTube channel. And see you again at 4 for the closing of this conference. We are finishing now with these 2 days of intense work, and we will keep working for this Mediterranean of peace and mutual respect.
Amen.
Amen.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Nos vemos a las 4.
See you at 4.